So, isn't that interesting? It actually looks at all of those aspects of knowledge, belief, and behavior, and it goes one more step. And because when we look at our taken for granted assumptions, and when those are called into question, when we consider the position of others, then we might turn the knob a bit. We might be able to see the world in a little different light. We might be able to empathize and take the perspective of the other in a little bit easier way. So I hope that was helpful to you. The second part of this session is about collaborative problem solving. Here we look at, again, a body of knowledge. It's not just one thing that we're going to give you a simple fix and we're done for the day, but rather a body of knowledge, and we call that task work. Also, effective communication, which is teamwork. So those are two different elements of collaborative problem solving. When we're working with youth, alongside them, with them, for them, it's really important that we role model, again, the kinds of tools available to us that we can use in our problem solving. Collaborative problem solving requires that people share resources and strategies in order to reach a common goal. And that's exactly what we're doing in Our Town, Our Kids. We're looking to share resources and ideas and strategies and knowledge and perspectives and initiatives in order to reach a common goal, and that is to find a local solution for our youth and their challenges. So let's continue with this. There's that task work again that refers to knowledge or the cognitive aspect that we're learning in the study circles. And secondly, the teamwork or the way that we communicate, the social aspect of getting together with others. We don't do this in isolation, we do it with one another. Again, in the medical field, this is a really common model. Collaborative problem solving is taught and applied now in most models of medical fields. Few instances now call for one health professional or one test or one point of information. It takes specialization, team knowledge, and team communication. Let's look at this model, though, which is a little closer. See if you recognize some of the elements of study circles. Let's start up there with number one, issue identification. Well, in study circles, one of the issues that we've identified, that has been identified for us by the Department of Corrections, is the over-involvement, the over-placement of juveniles into the juvenile justice system and all the deleterious effects that come with that. So we don't know exactly how that's going to work out yet, perhaps, but we do know that that's one of the issues. We don't know why, we don't know the ifs and ands and buts, but we have that as a starting point. Number two is the community capacity building and leadership development, and that's certainly where you come in. Throughout the study circles, we look at consensus building and dispute resolution, the stakeholders that come to the table, leveraging of resources. Goes on to have the different kinds of engagements, and finally coming to number 7, the evaluation, lessons learned, and the application of good, solid scientific programs and knowledge. Here's one more little slide that helps us look at the process of identifying the problem. Then we gather information. We analyze that information, look at possible options, evaluate the feasibility of those options, reach consensus through communication, and develop a plan and implementation. So in a nutshell, you are already engaged in collaborative decision-making and problem solving. You may be early in the stages, we may be at midpoint, but nevertheless, it's this process that we're really interested in. So in any kind of human interaction, but especially in collaborative problem solving, communication is the key element. In those, it's like location in real estate, right? Communication is everything. So we must consider ourselves not only as the messenger, but as a potential recipient as well. And here we see that the messenger knows what he or she means. There's a certain amount of coding going on because we use language to code. There's a channel of communication and different codes that are used in that. But the recipient is decoding, not necessarily perhaps in all of the ways that the messenger intends, and thus reaches an understanding. So this brings us back to that interaction of the body of knowledge, the body of belief, and the body of behavior. All of that, the message, depends on the communication of that message and its interpretation on both ends. So we have to be very knowledgeable about how we're beginning, how we're proceeding, and how we're conveying our interpretation of those issues. The power of perception then becomes a critical part of the equation. So just quickly, glance at this. What do you see first? What's the first thing you see? Do you see animals? Do you see human faces? Which is correct. What is the correct perception of this image? I'm sure you've seen a lot of things like this. The old woman and the young woman was the classic one that came out, I think, maybe in the 70s or before in psychology and social psychology. But here we're looking at sort of an updated version of that, but also the message is, it depends. Which one is correct? It depends on your perception, because our interpretation is dependent on what we see, how we see it, and how we value it. In this particular case, we call this the power of perception, and there's a scientific root of this idea created by W.I. and Dorothy Thomas back in the 50s that says, whatsoever situations are perceived as real are real in their consequences. That's an extremely important concept. Whatsoever situations are perceived as real are real in their consequences. So it's not just about a difference of opinion. It's because that has consequences on our behavior, right? Remember that tie to behavior. And indeed, we don't see things as they are. We see them as we are. So then it becomes very important for us to share ideas, share perceptions, communicate clearly, make sure that we have a clear understanding as we work toward problem solving together. So it becomes really important that we reach these core competencies, establishing and maintaining shared understanding, taking appropriate action to solve the problem, and establishing and maintaining group organization.